What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and this one I want to break down what's happening with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers, and break down some very important levels to be watching for, what's going on with the economic calendar that just released some important data. But let me just mention that I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit $500, you are guaranteed 20 free stocks, and the offer ends in just about 5 days from now. Anyways, guys, the market saw a bit of a dip after we got some negative data from the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report, and now we're still seeing buyers trying to defend the market. So the market's kind of like zigzagging. So I'm going to break down some very important levels and more information about that in just a minute. Let's first talk about this. So basically, today the data came out. The Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report showed a 65.6. This is actually below the forecast of 72, which is showing that consumer sentiment is very weak right now. The 5-year inflationary expectations is at 3.1%, so inflation is expected to be very sticky. So once again, it's still affecting the lives of everyday Americans to a very, very large extent, especially low-income Americans, and it's very, very hard for them. So we are expecting inflation to remain high for a long time. On top of that, you have to remember that sentiment is very, very weak right now. If you look at current conditions, it's at 62.5 below expectations. Same thing with consumer expectations overall. So right now, sentiment is weak. People are worried about potential recession. People are worried that the economy is on a very, very good place, and that's going to affect their spending behavior, the way they end up doing things, and it's going to have a big effect on our economy as a whole. So that's something that's very important. That's part of why the market ended up dipping the way it did. And now I'm just going to break down some very important levels. So I'll start with SPY before I break down Tesla and the others. What is SPY doing? I'm seeing some buyers trying to defend SPY. It's actually very range bound though. I want to call out 540 as a very, very important support. If we lost 540, if we got a SPY below 540 for a couple of hours, there would be a risk of it dipping all the way down to 537 to fill its gap down there. However, once we hit 540, we saw some buyers defending SPY. So the buyers are defending it. The bulls are defending 540, trying to hold it above it, and they're still very strong. There's no sign of major weakness from the bulls just yet. I am seeing signs that SPY is starting to downtrend just a bit, but there's no sign that the bulls are dead, though. There's no sign that the market's about to tank 5-10 points in a very, very quick manner. Not yet, because the bulls are still defending. Now, I want to call out this 541 area. We're actually trying to hold above this right now. If we do hold above this, there is potential for SPY to try to push a little hard, try to fill this gap up here, all the way back into the 542 area. But we have to try to hold above 541. And as you guys can see, it's not doing the best of job at doing that. So for the most part, SPY is kind of just range bound. Like I said, it's kind of zigzagging back and forth between the 541s and then 540. So we'll just see which way it breaks and just give it some time. So just be very patient with the market like this. I know it's a Friday and they're trying to hurt a lot of the option expirations. We have a lot of puts expiring and SPY is kind of just zigzagging right now, kind of chopping, not really doing anything too crazy, but that's all that's happening thus far. But if we do hold above 541, there is still some potential for it to push a little higher. We'll see how it ends up reacting, and don't forget 540 is key support. Now for Tesla, we have resistance around this 180 area, and then we have key support at about 178. This is actually very close to our 200 EMA. You guys can see Tesla did drop. So I said in the morning that if Tesla broke 186, I'd be looking for this inverse head and shoulders to play out, and we'd be pushing up to fill this imbalance into the 190 area. If we lost 182, Tesla would be dipping all the way down to about 178 to fill this gap. I called both of those levels out. And what happened was we lost 182 after the Michigan Consumer Sentiment data came out right here. And then as results, Tesla ended up hitting 178. We did touch that. And now we're trying to hold our 200 EMA as support. So you could see Tesla's in the 178s. So we have 180 as resistance. If we break this, look for 182. We have 178 as support. If we lose that, I'll be looking for a test of 177. This is the pre-market low from 2 days ago. And if that fails, we'll be dipping all the way down to about 175. So I'll be watching these key supports, 178 and then 177. If that fails us, then we'll be dipping lower. And I think that right now Tesla's kind of range bound, not really doing a whole lot. So we'll give it some time. Nvda, I said to everyone that although Nvidia could push higher, watch resistance because Nvidia is in a very, very critical place. Even though it's in the 130s, resistance is getting tougher. So I'd be watching every single one of these levels very, very carefully. If anything, you guys can see Nvidia is kind of shuffling around 131.5. If we lose that, I'll be looking at 130, then eventually 128. Overall, it's holding up relatively well, but we'll have to give it some time just to see how it moves. I think it's just going to shuffle and be kind of range bound for now in the 131s. So as of right now, that's all that Nvidia is doing. How about for Bitcoin? Bitcoin is just kind of flat right now, not really doing a whole lot. We have resistance currently around 67,000, and our support's all the way down here around 66,680. I think that it's just going to remain range bound for the time being, not really doing a whole lot. So we'll just have to give it some time just to see what it does. But like I said before, very choppy and sideways price action. QQQ is also very, very range bound. So you guys can see around this 478 area, we have resistance. Then we have support all the way down here at 475. Past 2.5 days, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, range bound price action. But there is a risk of it dipping lower if we end up losing 475. And I am seeing some signs that we're at some very, very tough resistance. So that does give the bears a little bit of an edge over the fact that it could actually dip. But because we're at some tough resistance on the QQQ, we just have to give it time and see which way it breaks. So watch 178 as resistance and also, 478 and then 480. And we have support all the way down 475, and we're just range bound for now. For Aapl, just like the QQQ, it's also range bound. We have 214 as our first resistance, and then 215. We have support at 212.5. If we lose that, we'll be dipping down to 210. We're completely range bound, going back and forth. There's not really a whole lot going on, so we have to just give it time. For Supermicro, we're also kind of range bound right here. We have support currently at 840. We have resistance at 855 and also at 867. I think as of right now, it's just kind of trading sideways within this range, but there is a risk of it dipping a little bit lower towards 840 all over again. But overall, it's still seeing a lot of sideways price action. The IWM Russell 2000 has support at 198. We have resistance at 200. We're just kind of trading sideways. There's a little bit of weakness on it, but we'll have to see if 198 holds. If we lose 198, we're going to be dipping down to 196. If we hold 198, then there is potential for it to try to rebound and just continue to shuffle in this range. That's all it's really doing. Uh, Coinbase is doing the same thing. We basically have support right here at 243 to 244. We have resistance all the way up around 247. We're completely range bound right now, so there's not really a whole lot else that's going on. But there is a little bit of downside potential on Coinbase. It might dip a little bit more towards the support at 243. So I do see a little bit of downside coming. Otherwise, it's still range bound besides that. One could also argue that we have kind of like a head and shoulders. I'm not going to worry about that yet until we lose key support. Otherwise, we're just range bound. Meta has been stuck between 505 and 500 all day. So I think that Meta will most likely just continue to range trade for the time being. We like to hold above 500, and we're seeing resistance around 503.8. We're going to likely remain range bound, at least for now. For Amazon, Amazon is dipping a bit. We have resistance currently around 183.28. If that breaks, we'll be looking for a push all the way up towards 185 if we could break past 183.5. If we end up losing support, I'll be looking at 182. If that fails us, we'll be dipping even lower. So we're still kind of stuck on Amazon, not really doing a whole lot. GameStop is just trading sideways, going back and forth between 30 and 28. We need to close above 30 to start turning bullish. Otherwise, we're just range bound. AMC is just trading sideways. We have 4.8 as support and 5.4 as resistance. We're just going back and forth and back and forth. To turn bullish, you want to see it break past 5.5. It's not doing that. It's just completely stuck. So just give it some time. All right, guys, that's it for my analysis. For now, the market is kind of lackluster, not really doing anything too crazy. We'll see if things improve moving forward. SPY is just kind of shuffling in the 541s right now, not really doing much. So we'll see if more buyers defend or not. We'll see how well we could hold at this level. But for the most part, the market is just range bound. So we'll give it some time and see how things go. I'll be back in about a little bit over in like maybe 2 or 3 hours from now. I'll be back for another update. Until then, guys, thank you for listening. Have a great day and peace out.